Timber hitch, lumberman's knot, or countryman's knot, whatever you want to call it. Basically, I know this one as the timber hitch, and that's what, oh, don't be so rude again, Johnny. Hello everybody, welcome back. And so what today I'm going to show you is the timber hitch. And basically, I don't know why it's not used more often, to be honest, because it's so simple, so easy to tie and very, very easy to untie. And so in today's little tutorial, I will show you how to tie the timber hitch. And before we actually go on and actually tie it, the wonderful thing about this knot is it is in itself a slip knot. So as I pull up on this lead here, it will draw itself tighter and tighter around the actual object that we've got it on. Now, if you are a practical knotter, this is a very useful knot. Obviously, by the name, timber hitch means that you can attach it to timber and haul timber around. The only thing I would say is that watch it to the end of the video, because when you're actually using it for timber, you also incorporate half hitches with it as well. And if you are a decorative knotter, this is you've probably seen previous videos where I have done rib hitching and spiral hitching on staffs and things, and the beauty of this particular knot is it's your starting knot for doing those particular knots. And the thing about it is it has a very low profile because of the way that it's actually tied. And so, in other words, if you're starting something decorative, if you don't want a big fat knot, slip knot on there, use the timber hitch because it's got a very low profile and you don't end up with a big horrible knot at the very start of your work. So anyway, without further ado, let's get knotting. Right, so here we have the object that we actually want to tie our timber hitch to, and this is the cord that I'm going to be using today to tie it round. Now the thing is, with regards to this knot, a word of caution: if you are going to use this for industrial purpose, i.e. tree surgery or something like that, I'll tell you this as we go along, but the minimum amount of turns that you need is 5 turns around, and I'll show you that now. So to tie this knot, what I basically do is I pass the working end underneath my log or my pole or whatever it is that I want to pass it round, and then as you can see now, it's going underneath there and coming out over the top. Now what I want to do is pull through quite a bit because I need a fair bit on my working end. Now that I've got, so here's my working end here as such, and the next thing I do is I pass the working end underneath the standing end like so, and so just pull it up, keep pulling it up, and then we end up with that. So my working end is coming up, going underneath the standing end like so, and then we take it back on itself here. Now the next thing we do, it's really, really simple, nothing really to it, but we just basically take the working end and we pass it underneath like so. Pass it underneath, pass it under once, like so. Just take it round a bit more, pass it under again for the second time, and then pass it underneath one more time. So we have a minimum of 3 turns around our object. Now, this is where it becomes crucial. If you are doing heavy lifting work, you're a tree surgeon or something like that, from what I understand, don't quote me on this, but from what I understand is we've done here 3 turns round here. Now for additional security and to make things safe, you would want to do an extra 2 turns, so that adds up to 5 turns around your work. And then once you've done that, all we need to do now is get hold of our standing end and just pull. And as soon as you pull it, it's pulling up tight, and the twist here is taking all the strain against the actual object itself and also against the original cord, and that is preventing it from slipping. Even if you've got a fairly slippery rope, that is not going to shift. And now, as I pull that, I have now got myself just a nice way of lifting a round object. It works particularly well on round objects, but is not restrictive to round objects. It just works well on round objects. Now the other thing is as well is that when you tie the timber hitch, for safety reasons, if your life depends on it, minimum of 5 turns round here. And also the other thing is that I've seen the timber hitch tied, so that I'll show you that in a second. But as you can see here, each time we've coiled it round, we've gone further and further around our object, so that the actual cord itself is taking the strain all the way round the object. Now sometimes I've seen the timber hitch where it looks a little bit like this. So it's all bunched up at that point there. Yes, in a sense that is the timber hitch as such, but it is not as safe and secure because all our strain is at this point here rather than actually being spread around the object itself. So the proper way of tying a timber hitch is to make sure, and as I stretch it round, make sure that the cordage is actually wrapped around the object itself. And so that in itself is the actual timber hitch tied. So you can see how that's done. So let me show you one more time, and then after that what I'll do is just show you another way of tying this, including half hitching, so that we can actually pull along the length of the actual object that we've got here. But you'll see that when we do it. So once again, I've undone it. So the first thing I do is I get my cord and I place it around my object like so. So underneath is my standing end, and the top piece here is my working end. And then I want to pull a fair bit through, and once I've pulled a fair bit through, I then get my standing end and just hold it up there like so, and I pass my working end underneath the standing end and then bring it up parallel like so. And the next thing I do is I just basically cross it over and start wrapping it around like so. Over, under once, bring it round again, over, under twice, and then third time if you're a decorative knotter, and 5 times if you are using this for professional purposes. And then now that I have tied, so the timber hitch has now been tied. Whoops, my box is splitting apart. But as I now pull up on that, I can pull it up really, really tight, and you can see now that is really tight and not going anywhere. Now, if say for example this was a long pole and we wanted to maneuver it into another position, or it's a log and we want to pull it out of somewhere, what we can do is we've tied our timber hitch there, and then what I do is I just move my timber hitch out the way like that so that you can see it, and then I can go here and I can tie a half hitch in here. So what I'm going to do is just go round here, pass this underneath my object like so, then get the working end, bring it back up and pass it underneath the standing end there like so, pass it underneath, and there we go. We now have a half hitch in our object, and you can see here now that we've got the timber hitch followed by a half hitch, and if we want to maneuver this particular piece, we just pull on this rope here, and you can see here now it's actually gripping hold of our spar, our pole, whatever it is, and we can maneuver it out of location. Okay, the other thing to remember about the timber hitch is this. So here we have our timber hitch again, and the thing to remember is with the timber hitch, here's the timber hitch. If I pull in this direction here, so if I'm pulling in that direction, down there like so, it grips tightly, and as I pull at right angles to it, it pulls up tight. Pull it the other way at right angles and it pulls up tight as well. But the one problem with this is if I pull it in that direction, so in other words that way, there is a tendency that the knot itself could collapse. And so therefore, whenever you're tying the timber hitch, just make sure when you tie it, your tension is going either along that particular angle there, if you see what I mean. But if we start pulling in that direction, then there is a tendency that the knot itself can collapse. But providing your tension's in this route, in this direction, there is no problems at all with that knot. So there we have it. Once again, the timber hitch. So if you enjoyed that, whoa, not much room here today. Thumbs up. If you hated it, give me a thumbs down. And please, let's talk about it. The other thing as well is, in the description, I will give you more information about the timber hitch, because also when the timber hitch is tied with a half hitch in some cases, it becomes the Killick Hitch. But that will be in the description below. So anyway, once again, thanks very much for watching and see you again next time. Bye-bye.